cement, crud, blower, bluebird. Skiers and snowboarders love to throw around these terms like a joint going around the parking lot. After all, it wouldn't be a good sport if it didn't have its own vernacular. But what do these terms actually mean? Today, we're providing definitions and visual examples of over 20 ways to describe the surface you ski or ride. Simple enough? Let's jump right in. The world's smallest disclaimer before we start. A lot of these terms are redundant, so be prepared for multiple terms for the same snow quality. Now, let's go from worst to best, in our opinion, of course. I wanted to talk about this one up front because it doesn't really fit with any of the other categories. If you hear the term dry slope, that essentially refers to an artificial surface made from synthetic materials. This is an interesting way to get some turns in an area that may not necessarily be conducive to skiing or in an alternative season. Dry slopes are particularly popular in parts of the UK, Europe, and even urban training centers elsewhere. While it doesn't really replicate real snow, it can help you work on edge control and carving when there's no snow to be found. These are favorites among professionals, but for recreational purposes, they're definitely a skip. Let's begin the real snow section with the worst possible conditions, the kind you dread skiing in and go out of your way to avoid. One of the most frustrating is crud, which is snow that's been skied over repeatedly, partially melted and refrozen, creating a lumpy surface that demands constant adjustment. This type of snow is an absolute leg burner, but not in a good way. Oftentimes in conjunction with crud you'll have death cookies, which are hard, icy chunks formed by grooving machines or even avi debris. These scattered snowballs can throw off your balance and make for a fairly unpleasant ride. Crust forms when a layer of snow melts slightly or gets rained on, then refreezes into a hard surface. Some crusts are firm enough to support your weight and allow for somewhat controlled turns. Others are far more problematic, such as breakable crust, where a thin, brittle ice layer sits on top of softer snow. As you ski, your edges break through unpredictably, sometimes sinking entirely, other times catching awkwardly. A particularly frustrating version is rain crust, created when rainfall freezes over the snowpack. Crust and crud are terms that are often used interchangeably, and crust often sits right on top of crud, giving a deceitful appearance that can turn a bluebird day into an absolute sweatfest. Another leg burner is chunder, which is a mix of chunky, uneven snow often left behind after heavy snowfall and skier traffic. It's unpredictable and an absolute workout for your legs, similarly to crud. Chunder usually results from cement, which is particularly wet and heavy powder that's extremely difficult to ski through without wide skis. If a freeze-thaw cycle has been happening but you go on a cold day at the end of it, you might encounter boilerplate, a solid sheet of ice with virtually no edge grip, requiring sharp edges and good technique. Closely related is hardpack, which is snow that's been compressed over time into a firm, smooth surface, manageable for confident skiers but unforgiving to mistakes. Hardpack is a fairly general term, while boilerplate is pretty specific. A practical synonym for boilerplate is bulletproof, an extreme version of hardpack that's so solid and icy it's nearly impossible to edge into. You East Coasters ought to be real familiar with all three of those previous terms. You can also have generally icy conditions, which, while not quite as sheer as boilerplate, can leave slopes slick and challenging to navigate. This commonly follows freeze-thaw cycles. Noticing a theme? Now let's move on to slightly more desirable conditions. They are still not perfect, but far more forgiving than the nightmares we discussed above, and you'd readily ski on these given the choice between the two. Mashed potatoes refers to snow that's soft, wet, and heavy, often appearing later in the day as the sun warms the slopes. It tends to pile up unevenly and can be physically demanding to ski through, requiring strong legs and careful weight distribution. Then there's slush, which shares some of the same wet and loose qualities as mashed potatoes, but in a more manageable, even enjoyable way. Common in the spring, slush can be soft, playful, and surprisingly fun. While it lacks the precision of firm corduroy or packed powder, slush offers a much more forgiving surface than you might find with your average winter conditions. Slush can also be ideal for tackling high-speed lines, as its softness acts like a natural brake, helping to keep your speed in check. To round out this section, let's talk about dust on crust, which is essentially when a thin layer of fresh snow sits atop a hard or icy base. It may look appealing from a distance, but often skis unpredictably as you cannot see what's underneath you. However, despite its unpredictability, I find that even a light dusting over crust adds just enough forgiveness to make it more manageable and, honestly, preferable to bare crust alone. Beyond those terms, we start getting into conditions that most skiers actually look forward to. Wind buff is formed when very strong winds blow soft snow across a slope and pack it down evenly. The result is a smooth, grippy surface that feels like a mix between powder and packed snow. It holds an edge beautifully and doesn't get tracked out easily. Mammoth and Breckenridge are two ski areas that are known for their excellent wind buff in their respective alpines. At other ski areas, you'll find these in the high alpine or highly exposed areas, although beware that all of that snow has to come from somewhere. As such, there's often a rocky spine hidden right behind some of the most beautifully buffed faces. As a result of a completely different element, sun instead of wind, you get corn snow, which is essentially the premier version of slush. Also referred to by some as hero snow, corn forms through repeated freeze-thaw cycles, creating soft crystals that resemble kernels of corn. When timed right, usually late morning, it's fast, carvable, and incredibly fun to ski. Some even prefer it to powder. While corn is a late-season specialty, more commonly found during the course season is cream cheese, which refers to soft, dense snow that's typically found after a storm when temperatures begin to warm slightly. It's like a nicer version of cement, and while not as light as proper powder, it still allows for some really nice turns as long as you stay balanced. Chalk, or chalky snow, is another great surface for skiing. It's dry, grippy, and consistent, often found on north-facing slopes, which are, by definition, shaded from the sun. This is a big reason why north-facing terrain can ski really nice compared to other aspects, even when there hasn't been any recent snowfall. You'll find the best of the best chalk in tight chutes and couloirs, since the high rocky walls provide nearly 24-hour shade. That's given, of course, that it hasn't been completely scraped off already. Corduroy refers to the neatly groomed ribbed surface left behind by snowcats overnight. These parallel ridges provide consistent grip and smoothness, which makes carving down groomers an absolute treat. If you're like me and love a good corduroy lap, in the course season, you'll have to get up nice and early. However, one of the best times to get corduroy is in the early season, as if you get out a couple weeks before the holiday crowds, you'll get fresh cord on top of fresh snowmaking without many other people there to compete for it. Often on ski resorts' official conditions report, you'll see the term packed powder, which refers to snow that was once fresh powder and has been groomed or ski packed by now. Packed powder provides a stable yet slightly soft surface that offers excellent edge grip, making it ideal for smooth carving. Do be aware that some resorts will mislead you by reporting packed powder when the conditions are really more hard pack. But if you hear an actual skier saying the term, you should be in for a very solid day. Finally, let's talk about the very best snow conditions, the kinds you dream about the night before a big storm. First off, although this term does get used pretty liberally by myself included, a bluebird day specifically refers to a clear, sunny day immediately following snowfall. Visibility is excellent, and temperatures are often cold enough to preserve snow quality. The gold standard here is simply powder, which is fresh, untouched snow that hasn't been skied yet. When the powder itself is especially light and dry, it's called blower powder. This type of snow contains very little moisture, often under 5%, making it extremely fluffy and easy to maneuver through, and is a favorite among powder skiers. In deep blower conditions, fast turns often lead to face shots, where snow sprays upward and hits your face or goggles due to the sheer volume and softness of the powder. This is usually a sign of excellent snow depth and consistency. Finally, cold smoke describes ultralight snow that trails behind skiers like a cloud. It's usually only found in very cold, dry climates, and is considered a hallmark of the very best powder days. Some of the best places to find this light powder are the Utah and Colorado Rockies. Alright, that's a good summary of all of the ways you can talk about snow. Did we miss any important ones, or misdefine some? Let us know in the comments. A shout out to all of the following for correctly guessing mystery clips: Twin Skiing Lifts and Rides, Same8951 and Matt Darling in the Ski Lift Fun Facts video, and Owen Wetzel, Stewart, and Kingfisher in the 2025 edition of the State of the Ski Industry. If you want to be shouted out in a future video just like this, keep an eye out for mystery runs and guess them in the comments below. As always, please leave any questions down below. Thank you all so much for watching. All my love, I'm out.